Hello, world. Welcome back to Golf Subpar with Colt Knost and Drew Stoltz, coming off the Sanderson Farms Championship, where Mackenzie Hughes is your winner in a playoff over Sepp Straka. Congratulations, Mackenzie. First win in almost 6 years, his second in his career on the PGA Tour. But Sepp Straka, this guy is knocking on the door. He's turning into a hell of a player.
Little sneaky, monstrous year ever since, I guess, the Honda last year, where he won. You know, Shane Lowry was in a good spot there. The weather came in. Sepp ends up winning that thing. And then he's just gone on to, like, he's a guy that I think, rewind a year ago, people saw his name on top of the leaderboard. Like, who's that? All the dudes from Georgia knew him. You know, we talked to him. Like, this kid's really good. And now I feel like the world's starting to get to know him. But he's been up there a bunch of times. He's close to rattling off a handful of wins in the last year and being right there. But props to Mackenzie Hughes. Like you said, been 6 years, been working on a little distance training, a little speed training like a lot of the other guys out there, add a little pop to his driver. He rolls the shit out of it, always has rolled it. And I got to think, honestly, last week, 2 weeks ago, President's Cup, he was a name that was right there for a long, long time, top 10 on those points lists. Then you get all the guys that go to live. The team opens up a little bit more. He was a guy that, I don't know if snub is the right word, but was fully expecting he had a good chance to be on that team. Didn't, and he lives in the city of Charlotte. So he had to sit there and watch it all happen, all that. That had to be a little bit of a motivator for him, I would think.
Yeah, a little bit of a stinger for sure. Also, a pretty good week in football. Your TCU Horned Frogs stay undefeated.
God.
They're actually going to be a part of game day this coming weekend for the first time ever. Pat McAfee, College Game Day, all the boys will be heading to Lawrence, Kansas.
Lawrence, that football squad, they get a lot of game days come basketball season. They don't see a lot during football season. But how about those boys, man? 5-0 over there. Frogs coming off just a boat racing of OU. Mm-hmm. That's not a team we clip. We lost 8 straight against them, so I was going to enjoy every moment. I kind of wish we hadn't called off the Dogs in the second half. Just run that thing up, because God knows the next time you're going to be able to do it against them.
One request, ESPN College Game Day. If Gary Woodland is your celebrity guest picker, I'm writing.
Oh, my God. Who will it be? Oh, dude, it's got to be like Riggle.
Riggle will be in town.
Riggle will be a good
Obviously,
one.
Bill Self.
I think anybody that's
there.
like a KU guy, dude, you got to cherish this. Getting game day out there, you don't know when it's going to come back again. They got to. Riggle would be good. If it's Gary, just, oh my God. We're going to have to write a script for him. Yeah, I can't think on his feet. He's going to say something stupid as shit. Gary's not built for live television.
Also, Cooper Rush, Dallas Cowboys. What are we doing? Come on.
I've been joking about him for a while. Like, hey, a little QB controversy down there in Dallas. Dude, by the way, he wins again next week, and then Dak comes back like, oh, my hand's better. Good. Grab some bench, dog. Like, what do you want a guy to do? If Dak had been doing this, the exact same stats, exact same results, and people are like, look, Dak, he's finally, I told you. The contract's justified. Cooper's doing it, dude. Let that kid spin. Let Booby spin.
I love it, man. Our defense is incredible. Big game
Dalton
this weekend.
paved the way for him as the redheaded gunslinger.
Okay, calm down.
You know what I mean?
Calm down.
He's like the red BB gun.
They travel to L.A. this week for a battle against the Rams. So if he can get another one, that'd be 4 in a row and win his first 5 starts in the NFL. Pretty damn impressive.
What do you want? What do you want from a guy that's getting paid less than $1 million a year? 2-year, $1.95 million deal.
I mean, I've heard of worse.
Pretty
things,
good.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson get paid $245. He costs a little bit more.
Would you rather have Cooper Rush right now?
Sierra's husband, excuse me. What?
Would you rather have Cooper Rush on the Broncos right now?
I'd rather have just something. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's all part of the plan. We weren't going to come out the gates hot. No preseason, no play like that. We're pacing ourselves, sliding under the radar. But some of the shit going on right now, I'm like, what are we doing? Melvin Gordon cough it up every single time he gets it. Old buttery hands, Melvin.
What's your coach's name up there?
Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, Nathaniel Hackett. The way he's going, he might need to drink one of these bottle of Dewar's after every game.
A lot of people saying that Nathaniel can't hack it. Mm-hmm. You with me?
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you're going to enjoy that Dewar's, make sure it's a lemon wedge, please.
Yes.
If you're in the trap, you're going to want a sand wedge. If you're shooting uphill from the cabbage, you're going to want a pitching wedge. If you're looking for the perfect cocktail for the 19th hole, or for watching golf on TV, you're going to want a Dewar's lemon wedge. It's a light, refreshing, totally seasonable cocktail made with Dewar's 12-year-old lemonade and club soda, then garnished with a lemon wedge. If you really want to make it authentic, stick a golf tee through the lemon before dropping it in the glass. A clean tee, please. Find the recipe at Dewar's.com. Make a batch for your buddies or just enjoy one yourself. Either way, you'll be sipping on the cocktail made for golf. The Dewar's Lemon Wedge. From Dewar's, the most awarded blended Scotch whiskey in history. Enjoy responsibly like we always do.
Always enjoy responsibly and gamble responsibly. That's what we do. We're responsible people.
Well,
my throat is not good, by the way.
You sound great.
I sound like I'm dying.
All right, well, it's time for the Dewar's Cheers moment of the week. And speaking of gambling, this isn't even gambling anymore with this guy. This is just free money every time I tee it up with our good friend, Pout Pout, Brian Bubbles Waters.
Shout out to the Pout Pout. The 17th best senior amateur in the United States of America, according to him. Made it to the round of 32 at the senior am. My Cow Club partner, your nemesis.
Not my
Your
nemesis.
kryptonite.
My little bitch. I own him.
Oh, my God, Muddy.
I own him, and he knows it now.
Oh, my God.
So we went out and played Whisper Rock the other day. Myself, Pout Pout, Dave Kelly, and Chris Quiet.
Okay.
All members at the Whisper Rock. We decided to play. It's soft out there right now because it's still hot. We played the Rust Tees, which is the member tees, 6,800 yards.
Friendly.
Hadn't played in a couple weeks. Decided to go out there, tee it up with the boys. Beautiful day. Mostly because I wanted to get ready for my match the next day with Max Homa and Riggs from Barstool and Joe Griner.
A little tune-up.
But I went out, and Sleeves, it's like I never left. It was just on an absolute heater. Turning 4 under, nice and solid, hitting a lot of good iron shots, making a few putts. Recently went to the Claw, as you saw there in Cow Club, hooping it from everywhere. Go to the back 9, par the 10th, then rattle off 7 straight threes.
21 strokes.
That's good math.
3 tubs.
End up shooting 29 on the back for a little 61. 9 birdies and an eagle.
Get you some. Get you some.
Every-
All in front of old Muddy.
Dude, every single iron shot, right when I'd hit it, the ball would take off, and he's like, God damn it! Because everyone was going right at the pin.
He's a positive influence.
Oh, it
that
was
Mud.
great.
He's always rooting for
all
others.
day. He's like, you're my kryptonite. I hate you. I can't play golf with you ever again. But we just absolutely dusted him. Me and Chris Quiet took him down for a little change.
A little piece?
Yeah.
A little nibble?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mud, yeah, he's fun one to have a day against.
It's
I'll
so
say that.
fun.
He's great if you're on his team and he's playing good because it's obnoxious. It fits right in with all of us when it's going good. But when you're on the other side of it and it's going good, he doesn't handle adversity too well. Probably why I only made it to the round of 32 in the USGA.
He was yelling at me, complaining that his body wouldn't turn because he's.
Oh yeah, I got up
and
at
all
the
this.
crack of dawn. By the way, we just did that flying out the Cow Club. By the way, did the exact same thing.
No excuses. Play like a champion.
Yeah, dude, just sack up, have you a little doers. Let's go.
Next day, I do have to give a little shout out to Max Homa and Riggs. They did take down me and Joe Griner. We played a little high-low, so both balls counted. We lost $75. It's like basically we're setting them up for a big, huge slap in the face.
You got to feed the pigeons.
Yeah.
A little bit. Keep them coming back.
But we went all the way back, and Max Homa, no surprise, cruised to a little 66.
Did he hit it terrible?
Oh my God! It's
The swing is
literally
so far all over
on
the place.
autopilot. It looks like a video game.
I don't know how he squares it up at the bottom. So many different positions.
But we went all the way back that day, high-low. I got 2 aside from Max. I shot 68.
Okay.
I took care of my
Solid.
business. My partner Joe, I love you. I'll always go with you till we die.
He is the reverse Pout Pout.
Joe Griner's fantastic. He started with the stack system like that morning. And
the speed?
his drivers, the speed system. His driver was all out of whack. He hits it as straight as I do, and he's hitting in the desert.
Yeah, he's a down the middle type of a dude. When aren't you dialed up for this stack?
I just got it.
We got to get you. What Blackburn say? Get you a 170 ball speed. I said, if you do that, dude, you need to better hire 7 assistants to answer the phone. Holy, I mean, come on.
But we have to actually have a meeting about it because he's worried if I just go straight into stack, I'm going to hurt myself.
Okay, good.
So I got to actually do some gym work a little bit before to get the body moving.
How do you feel about that?
I didn't know that was part of the deal.
How do you feel? I just want to hit it hard, dog. I don't want to do any of the work.
I just want to wake up and hit it long.
Just tell me. Yeah, just let me show up, pay you.
But I did just get it last week. Thank you, Stack, for sending that to me. I am going to get to work on it now that I have some time. And the game's getting nice.
Get stacked.
Get stacked.
Imagine if you just start hitting seeds. I need to get on this stack. Just hit crazy yaks.
All right. Well, a man who gets to see a lot of crazy yaks out there. Our guest this week, Jim Bones Mackay, caddy for, obviously, longtime caddy for Phil Mickelson, now caddy for Justin Thomas. Pretty good bag to have.
Not terrible. He's done well in picking out his talent.
Yeah, but this guy, I feel like we could have 3 episodes with Bones. He's got so many stories, and he's a fantastic storyteller.
And we should, by the way, because we've been trying to do this one for a long time. Scheduling, all that sort of stuff comes in. He's got so many stories. This is a real fun one. I think you're going to get some stuff about Bones. Everybody knows Bones, but how he got on the bag for Phil, how all that came to be. Justin Thomas, you get into a lot of that. There's just endless stories around the way about some of the old school Freddie Couples, those dudes. Like, this dude's been in it from the jump. And when he was on TV, he did an outstanding job. But like, even when I found out he took the job with JT, I was talking to him. I was like, dude, like, caddy's like your DNA. Like, you belong like out there, like in the game. And he got a bag that ain't going away for a while.
All right, let's get to it. Here's Jim Bones Mackay on Golf Subpar.
Okay, ladies and gents, this one is long overdue, but it's finally here. We got one of the legendary bagmen of all bagmen with us, current caddy for Justin Thomas, also part-time broadcaster still, the man himself, Jim Bones Mackay. What's up, brother?
What's happening? Thanks for having me.
Finally, it's here. Dude.
Yeah, you finally let me in the door. Here we are.
Oh,
You're
okay.
a busy man.
Here we are.
But first off, thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a lot of fun. You know, we've obviously both known you for quite a long time, but for the people out there, we got to get to know you a little better. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess, probably as a young boy, your goal wasn't to be a professional caddy. Tell us a little about like Jim Bones Mackay as a young fella.
Yeah, a kid with no money, but there were some golf clubs laying around at the house. Lived in this town, New Smyrna Beach, Florida, that by the grace of God had a city-owned municipal golf course, 9 holes of which were designed by Donald Ross, and I could go out there for free after 3 o'clock. And the fact I could do that changed my life. And so I did that 363 or 4 days a year.
Okay.
That's it? Couple days?
You know, picked a range on occasion, did this or that, but that's where I was, and that place, you know, changed the trajectory of what I have going on.
So you were hooked early.
I was. I just loved it, and there was a couple of guys. Slugger White, as a matter of fact, when I was a little kid, Slugger White spent a lot of time around that area, and he would come and play on occasion. And you'd be like, that guy's on the PGA Tour, and you know that kind of like obsession with golf at that level starts for a kid who's 9 or 10 years old. And I just remember thinking it was the coolest game ever.
Did he wear the hat back then?
Did you take
No cowboy hat. No,
No
not
cowboy
at the
hat?
time.
you take any sketchy drops around it? Hey, this is no closer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you worked your way all the way, and you played in college. I mean, you gotta tell us a little bit about Bones, the collegiate golfer. Analyze your game as a broadcaster.
Oh my gosh, just
Break it down.
unbelievably mediocre at a Division II level.
Solid.
Okay?
We had the same
Thank you.
game, dog.
Appreciate it. Would hook one in the woods, and for $100 couldn't tell you why the ball went left, which is what kills you. That at that age, it bugs me now that at 57, when I hit a bad shot, I have a good idea why. Back in those days, it could have been any one of 100 things. I didn't know how the game worked or how the swing worked, but I was an above average chipper and putter, and that got me through 4 years at Columbus College, and we had pretty competitive teams and got to do a couple of cool things. Like one year we went to University of Florida's tournament, got paired one of the rounds with Ohio State, and I played 18 holes with Jack Nicklaus watching his son Gary play in our group. So silly things like that happened, which was cool when looking back on it. But just grateful that I had a place to play, and Columbus, Georgia, as it turned out, was my entree into caddying.
Did Jack say, son, you got what it takes?
yeah.
I like what I see out there. I'm
yeah.
a little bit worried about my major record. Maybe find something else.
I want to go back to what you said, because you said you were a mediocre D2, and he said we have the same game. I just want to know that you said TCU's Division II. Thank you.
No, I was talking about my game being
No,
mediocre.
no.
Don't ever try to spin
Hated
the
on
word, dude. If there's
TCU.
any spinning going on here, I'll be doing the spinning. By God.
All right, well, what got you into caddying? Do you remember your first ever day as a caddy? And what was I don't even know, what was your first PGA Tour event?
It goes actually back to high school. Mm-hmm. So Johnny Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Thompson is a longtime PGA Tour rep, and his father played on the tour. His dad's name was Barney, who was a very talented player at the time from West Virginia. He was a rabbit back in those days, Monday qualifier before the all-exempt tour, but he lived down the street. And for golf balls, I would go down on occasion and babysit Johnny. So I had this relationship with his mom and dad, and on a couple of occasions, I would say to Barney, I'd love to come and caddy for you. And the first time I ever caddied was at the Walt Disney World Team Classic. So this would have been around 1980, 81. You can't imagine what they made you wear to do it. They basically made the caddies dress like Walt Disney World Park employees. So it's 95 degrees. It's 100% humidity. We're out there in brown sweater vests and a goofy hat, caddying. But that was it. And Barney and his partner, Randy Erskine, who was a club pro from Ypsilanti, Michigan, played really well. And we were in it going into the weekend. I'm full on addicted. Yeah. So I did that a couple times, caddied at Bay Hill in high school, and of course went to college. But I got to thinking, as I was realizing how bad I was at golf, that this whole caddy thing could be the coolest job ever.
I think I got to talk to Titleist, see if we can get you a goofy hat with Titleist across of it for one of the tournaments.
That's got to make you feel good as a caddy. Here's your uni. You're going to be goofy today.
You can't imagine. I mean, it was +4s. It was all knit, sweater vest, and we had to change in this tent. And the smell of that tent will travel with me for the rest of my life. It was like something you've never seen.
So you got in it. That's when you knew, like, hey, maybe this caddying thing's for me. But you go on after college. I think you're working at a golf shop at the time, and Larry Mize is a member there or something, and you end up hooking up with him. Yeah,
became friends with Larry. I'm making $3 an hour working at Green Island Country Club in Columbus, Georgia, the town I was going to college in. Larry is there practicing, doing his thing. He would come up late in the evenings and hit golf balls from the back of this one tee across a fairway into some open land, and I would go pick up the golf balls for him, and we became close friends. And then the guy wins the Masters, and he's doing his thing, and now you're so excited for he and his wife, and you're keeping up with what's going on, and you're very kind of in tune with what's going on the tour. And this just went on for a period of years, and I finished school, and I'm going to take a job at a local bank, and adult life is about to take place. And I'm sitting around with Larry one day at his dinner table, and he said, my caddy and I split up today. This is at the very end of the year, October, November kind of time. And I'm like, really? Of course, the wheels are churning in my head. And I said to him, if I could get a leave of absence from this bank I've never even started at, would you consider taking me on the road for a couple of years? And to his credit, I mean, he never should have done it. I mean, I'm not a caddy. I don't know the courses. I don't know where to stay. I don't know what to do. But he was nice enough to let me do that. And in January of 1990, I packed up my little red beat-up car with no air conditioning and drove it across the country from Columbus, Georgia to Palm Springs. And I was like, wow, this is the greatest adventure of all time.
That's commitment to go from Georgia in your car, no AC, by the way, to Palm Springs, first gig ever. I mean, imagine somebody doing that now.
And then did you caddy for him that following April at the Masters?
I did. I caddied in my first year caddying, 1990. I caddied for him at the Masters. It was the last year that Cypress Point was on the rotation at Pebble, so I caddied at Cypress Point. I caddied at the British Open in St. Andrews.
And your first year?
Wow. That was my first year, and he finished about 15th on the money list. So I was out of my mind.
So you're out of college in Georgia, and you're going Cypress Point, and then had you been to Augusta before?
Just as a spectator.
Yeah. So you'd seen the place.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
That got to be maybe Are you the last caddy ever?
Patron. Sorry.
Yeah, patron.
There you
right,
go.
Right.
Yeah.
No mud ball. Don't even think of mentioning a mud ball. You got to be the first caddy ever to never have caddied really as a job before and get a major champion as your first back.
Yeah, I mean, ridiculous.
Nowadays,
crazy.
It would never be like, no, dude, you got to work the Corn Ferry, do something for a while.
Larry was really, really good, and he got in the middle of some big things. We were playing with Gamez when he holed it on the last hole at Bay Hill. It was just an incredible, first year. He didn't win, but came incredibly close. He was actually leading. I think he and Norman were tied for lead when Gamez holed it on 18 at Bay Hill with that 7-iron. But just got in the mix a few times, and I was just eyes wide open and just drinking it all in.
So how long were you with Larry Mize?
2 years.
And then you went to...
he was interested in me, taking up this commitment I had with the bank. I was not interested at all. And, again, he wanted what was best for me, and I really appreciate that. He's one of the finest gentlemen I've ever met in my life. But I wanted to stay out there. His close friend, Scott Simpson, he then became between caddies. He said, well, will you caddy for me in 92? And I said, great. And the very first tournament I ever caddied for him was Palm Springs in 1992. I went to pick him up in a car now that had air conditioning that I'd driven out there. Congrats, you. Yeah. Upgraded there. And we're driving to the golf course down 111 there in Palm Springs. It's my first day on the job. And the guy says to me, hey, by the way, if you ever get offered a job by a player better than me, definitively better than me, I would expect you to take it on the spot. And I'm driving down the street thinking, well, that's so nice of you, but I'm all in. Let's go make some birdies kind of thing. But of course, that sticks in the back of your head. And, 3 or 4 months later, I ran into the whole Phil situation.
Mm-hmm. So you're one of those guys that feels like still to this day, like you wake up so excited to go to the golf course and caddy.
I love it.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
In your DNA. I think you and I had a conversation, even when you got into broadcasting, which you were terrific at, by the way. But I was like, and then you took the job with JT. I was like, dude, that's like where you belong. I just feel like you're a dude that belongs like in the mix out there. And broadcasting is close, but it's probably not the same feeling as being in the arena.
Yeah, the TV job was and is amazing, and I'll do it again at some point down the road. But there's something about caddying, for me at least, that it's really big time in my blood.
Would you say, like, coming down the stretch or even at the start of tournaments, like, are the nerves or is the excitement still the same? Like, do you get nervous before, like, say, the Masters?
I've been nervous one time as a caddy, and that was early in my career with Phil. early in the tournament in Vegas, he had a chance to shoot 59. And for some reason, back then, people shoot 59 a decent amount these days, but back then, back in the early mid-90s, it rarely happened. And there may have been some kind of like cash bonus at the end of the rainbow that somebody was giving out if you shot in the 50s. And I remember being nervous that day. But it occurred to me early on that, when you're out there with these guys on Sunday and they're trying to win, they've got so much on their shoulders. They're taking so much home with them at night, as you guys know, on Friday, Saturday night, that, I'm having a couple of beers with my buddies, and it's all good for me. So I never felt nervous. Now, I can get, anxious, like, let's get out there, let's get going, whatnot, but I've never felt nervous on a golf course.
That's crazy. So take us back. You mentioned, obviously, 4 months in, you start with Phil. How much did you know about him before you got offered the job, and what were your first thoughts when you got to see him play up close and personal?
I certainly was a guy that read everything about the game, got Golf World magazine every week and, memorized what was going on. So certainly was aware of what he was doing. And at this point, he'd won a couple of NCAAs and was a really big deal. But I came to the Phoenix Open one year and was driving to my favorite record store, was down in Tempe. And I went down Scottsdale Road that turned into Rural Road. And in doing so, before I took a right to go to the record store, that's where the range was, the private range for the ASU golf teams. And this one evening, there was a left-hander hitting balls on the range. So I went into the store, bought my CDs, drove back. The guy was still hitting balls. It was Phil. And I got within, 20 or 30 feet of him and said, "Do you mind if I watch you hit a few?" And he said, "No, please help yourself." I sat down on a bench, watched him hit balls for 10 minutes and just got in my car and left. That was the first interaction I ever had with him. But you could just tell, you could just look at the way his hands went on the club, in terms of like Ballesteros did. That it looks like he was born with a club in his hand, and the speed and, the wedges and whatnot, that the guy was a world beater when at this point he was 2021.
So how did the job offer come into play? You're out there, you're looping, and all of a sudden, bam, here's the young up-and-comer, all-world kid. How did he know, I want bones?
Back at that time, there were a couple players like Chris Kirk is now. Chris Kirk has a rotation of caddies. Back in those days, Curtis Strange did that. So Scott Simpson is not playing at the Tucson Open in 1992, but I love me some Curtis Strange. And I had worked for him a few times before, had a chance to work for him that week. I'm there. It's like a Saturday. Curtis is playing well. He's in the fringes of contention. And, as a caddy, you're standing around waiting for your player to come out. And here comes this guy that looks familiar to me. And it turns out to be Phil's college golf coach, who I'd met once before, who had, he'd been at a couple of different schools. But he came up to me and said, "Hey, remember me?" And I'm like, "Sure do." And he says, "We're looking for a guy for Phil. He's going to turn pro in June. Could you give us some names?" It was never about me. So we were having this conversation. Here comes Curtis. I have to leave abruptly, and that's it. So, I said, got to go by, grab the clubs, and follow Curtis to the range. So I just got home after that tournament and just wrote a note. Didn't know the guy's address, just put, Arizona State Athletic Department, Coach Loy, and said, "Hey, sorry to run off on you like that. Here's my number. If I can help you out in some point, point you in some kind of direction, let me know." It turns out, I guess Phil either saw that note or Loy told him about the note. And when I met Phil for the first time really in person, which was at the Players a couple of months later, Phil got in as an amateur. Phil offered me the job. But I will say that it's important to remember that it's kind of thought as caddies out there, we all talk all the time, we all go to dinners, that you never want to be a great player's first caddy because you're never going to last. They're always going to make a change. So I knew right away I wanted to take the job with Phil, but the reality of that job and that situation is that he's going to now come out on the tour, he's going to play. There's 150 other caddies out there. He's going to run into some guy he thinks is the greatest guy ever, who's very, very capable, and that's who he's going to want to have caddy for him. So I didn't have any illusions when I went to work for him. I thought this might last a year or so. I thought maybe my goal was to caddy in one Ryder Cup. And maybe I could get to one Ryder Cup with him, and we'll see how it goes. But to his credit, with the kind of guy he was to work for, I ended up doing 11 in a row with him.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I had no idea about that story.
I didn't know about the note
either.
Yeah.
So was it the note? Did he ever say something to you? Like, "Hey, I saw the note, and I was like, a guy that would do this would be the kind of guy
I don't think so. He might have said that, I heard you wrote a note or something like that. But it was just, that was the way it worked. And it was very, very quick. That day, I'm actually caddying for Scott Simpson in a practice round at the Players. We're playing with the first alternate, who I'm almost positive was Gary McCord. And
He's normally an alternate.
so it's Simpson, McCord, and Phil on the 10th tee at the Players. And we're waiting for the fairway to clear, and this conversation happens between Phil and I. And I said, can I think about it while we're out here for a couple hours, because it completely caught me off guard. And of course, every atom in your body is screaming, you got to do this.
I'm doing it. I just can't do it right now.
And right. So, it was an easy question to answer.
Yeah, and y'all obviously went on this incredible run, and you're back in the 90s, and I feel like the characters back then were much different than they are nowadays.
Unbelievably
That was like the
so.
golden era,
Yeah.
maybe, I think.
I feel like I
90s.
missed my era. Like, I needed to be back
That's a
in
great
the 90s.
point. That's a
First
great
off, you had
point.
it straight and short back then, too. It worked out great. But
Right.
I want to know, who were, like, some of the guys back then you looked forward to getting paired with? Because, I mean, they're big characters. They're going to the bar afterwards, not to the gym.
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have? There were so
As
many.
much as you want.
Yeah, no, it was just, there were just so many great guys. I mean, first of all, this, everyone's going to be disappointed by this answer, but you can't undersell Fred Couples.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Certainly, that was when Fred was coming on the scene. I mean, he played some good golf in the late 80s, but I became really good friends with Joe LaCava. He became my best friend and a guy I traveled with on the road. So I spent an inordinate amount of time with Fred, and those stories are, I've always said that if there's ever a book called The Adventures of Fred and Joe, it'll be the best-selling golf book of all time, because every night was just incredible. Finding the best Italian spot in town, going to a ball game or a hockey game. It was just like I was living my dream. You know what I mean? I was so lucky to be in the middle of this. But I don't know. Guys like Joey Sindelar and guys like Mike Donald. I mean, the real characters. And it was an amazing time. Jeff Sluman was a blast to be around. Jeff Sluman could get you in trouble because he was so funny. You'd lose it at a time when a caddy shouldn't be losing. I remember he used to have this deal with Polo, and all of his shirts, would have a little pocket right here. And for whatever reason, a scorecard would fit in it perfectly vertically. And he'd be out there like taking practice rings, like he's about to go tee off in the Masters with his scorecard coming out of his pocket. I mean, it's one of those you had to be there moments, but just as you said, these guys are characters, and they were hilarious to be with.
That's the goal. That is the golden era of like characters. And that is pre-social media, pre-everything. Like guys were actually going out and doing stuff. But Freddie actually is the one that gave you your nickname, right? Everyone knows you as Bones. I mean, have people out there like you say Bones, they know what you're talking about. He gave it to you. Can you give us the story how that came about?
3 months into caddying with Larry Mize, tournament in Paris. Nobody knows your name. Nobody's really cares to know your name because they're sure at this point this new skinny kid from Georgia is not going to last. And so Larry said, let's go to Paris for this event. I was like, wow, Paris, great. Again, you're over there seeing things you never thought you'd see. All the players, their wives, and the caddies would go to dinner together at night. And 4 or 5 nights in, we go to some place after a round, and it's buffet style. Fred's, hungry and tired and wants to go to bed. He's the first guy through the line, gets this steaming plate of food, goes over and sits down at a table, sits down, no silverware. Looks up, the silverware's, 26 feet away. There's no chance he's walking that 26 feet. Sees a tall, skinny guy very close to said silverware and just starts screaming out these random names, none of which are mine. I'm so skinny. He yells out Bones. I turn around, bring him a knife and fork, and he calls me Bones the rest of the trip. But, I have to say, and I say it all the time, back in those days, and we're talking, the golden age, if you will, a ton of caddies had nicknames you would not want to tell grandma.
Well, we got to save that.
Yeah.
That's one of my questions later on because I love caddy nicknames.
Okay.
When he calls you that, did you know at that point, like, that's what I'm going to be called for the rest of my life? This will be forever what I'm known as in the golf world.
John Cook was on that trip. John Cook was calling me Bones on the range the next day, something like that. I was like, okay. Yeah, and I was thrilled given some of the other nicknames floating around.
You know what? I'll take Bones. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
You can just never get big.
Yeah.
Or it has to be like ironic.
I love the nicknames. This is going to be great. But obviously, Phil in 92. Then late 96, early 97, a fellow named Tiger Woods comes along.
Yes, he does.
You heard of him?
Let's get into your first time seeing Tiger up close and personal.
Man, I'll say this. In the fall of 1996, I had some friends who were in this band REM, and they were in Vegas to do something, and I was going to go to dinner with them with a PGA Tour golfer by the name of Davis Love III. And Davis Love III was late to dinner because he was losing in a playoff to Tiger Woods, Tiger's very first PGA Tour victory. Yeah. And I'll never forget, Davis coming in and sitting down and, dang it, I had my chances and this and that. And then the kid did this and the kid did that. And, none of us knew how great Tiger was going to be. We knew we won these amateurs and the junior amateurs and all this stuff, and the swing looked like just syrupy perfection. But I just remember, Davis, really not wanting to be the first guy that, didn't beat him down the stretch. And then, of course, it starts to sink in, kind of what's going on. And it was remarkable. I think the first time we didn't get paired for Tiger for a while because they would always put he and Phil on the other side of the draw, which went on for years.
Okay, were you a fan of that or no?
I wasn't, because I wanted to watch the guy play like everybody else wanted to watch him play.
And they're trying to build a rivalry. They're trying to build this as Phil Tiger. Yeah. It's like, well, dude, maybe put them together one time. You can control the first.
Well, at least on the same side of the wave. That way there's not so many people in between.
They want people watching both sides, but it's like, dude, if you're trying to build this as like, these are the two dudes, how about you put them head to head a couple times?
I mean, I don't know the stat, and I don't want to make a fool out of myself, but if you told me it was double-digit years that we went without playing with him on a Thursday and a Friday, I wouldn't be surprised. It was just forever. But I saw him play at Wingfoot at the PGA that Davis won. And the thing that just blew me away was the available speed. The swing was gorgeous. And, of course, he's working with Butch. And I just remember a couple of times where, he obviously, to get a club from A to B and to get the ball stopped, he had to do something fairly outrageous in terms of the speed he would generate. And he'd do it, and the ball would come down with a 3-iron and go like, a foot from the ball mark, and you're like, oh boy. And then you start getting paired with him late on Sunday at the Masters and things like that, and it's like, oh boy. But I wouldn't change it for anything. I mean, we can sit here and talk about Tiger and tell Tiger stories. I mean, it's like the Duval quote that's been going around for a few years now on the tour, where maybe some young guy said to him, "Geez, I wish I could have played against Tiger in his prime." And Duval was like, "No, you don't."
Yeah.
I mean, it was really, really tough. And what it would do, Phil took heat a couple of times, for decisions he made down the stretch, or things that happened down the stretch in PGA Tour events, when we're trying to beat Tiger, a guy that doesn't make bogeys. It's a whole different bowl of cherries when you're pulling a club and you're playing against somebody else maybe that trying to win a tournament. But there were certainly a couple of times when we were playing, like, well, we got to do A, B, and C here, because what's the likelihood that this guy's going to make a score over par? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because he was just that good. It seemed for a while there wasn't anything on the tour, ball striking, putting, pitching the ball, where he wasn't the very best on the tour at it.
It's kind of tough to beat.
It's kind of tough to
And
beat.
what was, I mean, you were out there in the arena when, obviously, I mean, it's not arguably, it's the two best players of that era going at it head to head. I mean, I think back to Pebble Beach when Phil shot 64 to get the win. But what was the atmosphere like out when those two got paired together?
It was crazy, especially if it was at San Diego. Actually, I'm not sure they ever got paired together at San Diego, but they went at it in San Diego, in the last couple of groups. And I remember there was some kid who had this like extended driver shaft with Tiger's famous Tiger head cover, and like we would walk between greens and tees, and the guy would hold the head cover over our head as we were walking the next tee. It's like, the crowd was involved. Phil was from San Diego, Tiger was from up the road, and Tiger was Tiger. He had this incredible following, but it was super, super cool. And I will say, there were a couple of times when you're out there just butting heads with this guy, and Tiger would come over to you in a quiet moment and go, no matter what happens the next half an hour, this has been fun. And really? I always really respected him about that, because no one needs to tell me how much he wants to win and how much Phil wants to win. But I think Tiger really enjoyed the process. You know what I mean? He really enjoyed going head to head with somebody. And of course he won, 99% of the time it seemed like, but it was fun to be out there.
He probably just enjoyed being challenged, because there's not that many guys realistically. If he's playing well, close to an A game, there's not that many guys that can really hang around. And Phil was probably one of the guys who could. Phil actually said something to me one time that I've never thought about until he said it. But he's like, you look at all the great players in the history of golf, they're one of two things. They're either great technicians or they're great artists, right? Nick Faldo, great technician, swing, all that stuff. He's like Seve, artist, clearly, that type of guy. He said Tiger Woods is the first guy ever to be the world's greatest technician, golf swing, and the greatest artist at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I also think too, this is a caddy perspective here, that professional golfers at that level fall into one of two categories: blamers and non-blamers. And for me personally, you sit out there, one of the things you do as a caddy is you observe, you look around the range, you see what's going on, and it's not easy to kind of figure out what's happening in certain situations. And both Tiger and Phil, I never caddied for Tiger, but I'm quite aware of how he operates, I feel it's fair to say. And, Phil was a guy that if we were, in the 18th hole at Riviera and he likes 7-iron and I like 6-iron, I talk him into the 6 and he hits it in the hot dog stand over the green and we lose the tournament. He was a guy that would say to me, as bad as I would have felt, "That's okay, I'm the guy that takes the club out of the bag." And that really opens up your caddy to, not walk around on eggshells, really be themselves, have an opinion. And both Tiger and Phil were like that. And when I look around, at these guys, some of these guys to me that are constantly looking for someone to point the finger at. My omelet was no good this morning. My manager's doing a bad job. The shaft in my driver really isn't working the way it should. To me, those guys that are looking for things to blame their poor play on, they're almost always going to be underachievers.
That's it. Yeah. There's a lot of guys. I think golfers in general, just like blame. It was something, a bad lie, whatever. Yeah. Like rarely, a lot of them don't take ownership.
You gotta own it.
Like, dude, you're the only dude at the end of
the day.
You gotta
own it.
Wrong side of the draw.
Yeah.
You always got the bad wave.
That's just factual.
You always got
always had it.
Always had the bad wave. We want to talk about one specific event in particular, the 2004 Ryder Cup, which I think is one that still gets talked about with Hal Sutton, obviously. They paired Tiger and Phil together.
They did.
Which was kind of unexpected.
Okay.
Was it something that y'all knew going in, like, hey, this is probably going to happen? And what was your first thought when you're like, okay, this is like, we're going to go do this?
It was not planned, or at least as far as I knew. I didn't really have an idea that it was going to happen until the day before. They didn't want anybody to know it. And so Oakland Hills is a big property. There might be 2 golf courses there. Of course, we were just on one of them. But Phil came to me and said, "Listen, we're playing with Tiger the first day, and we're playing with him an alternate shot. And, of course, I needed to defer to Tiger, so we use his golf ball. It's going to be radically different than ours. You and I are going to go to the other side of the property here with 40 of his balls and try and figure out what we need to do with it." So that was the first I heard of it. And, we went and did what Phil wanted to, and certainly the golf balls were radically different. But there we were the next day on the first tee, ready to roll.
Wow.
What surprised you more, the fact that you were paired together the first time or the fact that you got paired together the second time?
Yeah.
The first I can kind of see, like, let's throw our beasts out there. We'll smack them in the mouth, make a statement. All right, it failed.
Yeah.
Maybe bring it back.
With all due respect to everybody involved, and it's easy to second guess and play Monday morning quarterback. I thought that after they didn't win that first match against Harrington and Montgomery, who played very well, I thought let's just let this go.
Yeah, I think that's the big shocker.
I think that was just like, let me take one more chance just to show that I wasn't totally ridiculous
Guys,
for doing this.
Eventually they're going to win. They're pretty damn good at this game. You've been a part of virtually every team competition for years and years and years. I mean, going back, right? Do you have one that sticks out like, that's my favorite memory, that moment right there, on the team side, not individual?
There would be a couple of memories. If I have 20 seconds for a story here.
You have 7 hours for a story if you want.
So in 1993, Phil wins the International.
Great tournament.
Great tournament. I can't wait. I think we're going back there for the BMW here in the next couple of years.
2024.
Soon.
Yeah, George
Denver.
Solich at the helm there at Castle
George
Pines.
got it done. Shout out
George
Denver needs some
Solich
golf.
will get it done. Let me tell you something. So Phil wins the tournament. I got a couple extra bucks. And a couple weeks later is the Ryder Cup. Phil's not on the team. And I'm obsessed with the Ryder Cup. I just think it's the coolest thing ever, but I've never been to one.
It is. Yeah.
So Joe LaCave is like, well, Fred's on the team. Come over and crash on the floor and wherever I'm staying. I'm like, I am there. So I buy myself a ticket. I fly over to Birmingham, England, and I am hanging out in the crowd at the Ryder Cup. But this is pre-assistant captains and caddy captains and all the stuff that you see today. It was Tom Watson as the captain. His longtime teacher, I think his name was Stan Thirsk, is his assistant, and that's it. You got, I think, 2 guys from an administrative standpoint. So I get over there, and certain things, I needed my jacket, I needed a dozen balls. All of a sudden, they give me a credential, and I'm Team Gopher. And I'm the happiest guy ever.
Fantastic, yeah.
Fantastic gig. So, come Friday morning for the start of the tournament, I'm in the team room now. and I'm sitting around in the corner, and there's this fog. So guys have warmed up, and there's this fog delay, and guys are nervous. I mean, if guys are really, really going to get nervous for me, it's going to be at the Ryder Cup, especially if it's their first or their first overseas. And this fog delay comes in, and I want to say that the first group out that day was going to be Kite and Davis Love. So we're all in the team room, ready for the fog to clear, and these guys are going to have to go straight to the tee. Guys are sitting around, guys are eating for the 10th time, guys are just really nervous. And Fred is at a corner of the room where all the bags are lined up, and he's just going through everybody's bag, just checking out what you got. So he's making his way bag to bag, bag to bag. He takes out Davis's 9-iron, waggles it. The head falls off the shaft and bounces down this marble circuit. Ding, ding, ding.
He was just
ding.
waggling it?
Waggling, the head falls off the shaft.
Better than
an hour later.
Where.
And everyone made this really loud noise. We were watching this thing bounce down the stairs. And as this thing comes to stop, a guy comes in, he goes, 5-minute call, Love and Kite. And Davis picks this thing up, hands it to me, and says, get it fixed. Now, this is 1993.
A little more difficult.
Yeah, 1993. And there are no trucks on the property. And somebody says to me, I don't know who, but this person really said, if you run towards that farm over there, there's a little guy in his pickup truck who's got 6 grips in the back, and is, hoping to help out and some epoxy. He's your guy. And it was like literally, it might have been 2 miles. But off I sat, and I'm running across fields and this and that, and running through cows, literally. And I find this guy where they allowed him to park, and he epoxies this thing. And by the time I get back, they're on 4 or 5 or something like that. But what was crazy was I did this, and then I went about my job, getting guys sandwiches, whatever. And then the Ryder Cup comes to an end that Sunday, and it comes down to Davis Love's match, and he's playing against Constantino Rocca, and the 18th hole of the Belfry is the hardest driving hole in the world. Maybe it's like 18 at TPC Sawgrass, but harder. Just dog legs, and that water just stays on the left edge the whole way. And Davis Love hits this 3-wood off the tee. I'll never forget. Carries everything. You couldn't. 295 yards. It put so much heat on Rocca, who then flared one out to the right. So Davis is in this position where he's going to have to make par to win the Ryder Cup. And he hits his short out on the green, leaves his first putt short, and makes the 6-footer to win the Ryder Cup. Arms go up in the air, and we all go nuts out on the green, and we're all out there hugging and all this stuff. And I'm just staying to the side because I'm not that much a part of the team. And Davis comes over, hugs me, and says, "That was your 9-iron." That I had gotten fixed earlier in the week. And I'm this kid, what I mean? And, it just...
You won the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you know what I mean? But that was how it makes you feel.
It blew my mind. And like as in love and obsessed with the Ryder Cup as I was then, in that second, I became even more so. So that experience, and what's crazy, and no one needs to tell me how crazy blessed is, I've been inside the ropes at every single team event since.
Yeah.
So between caddying and TV, I haven't missed since '93, and I just think they're like, when we go to the President's Cup here shortly, I can't wait to watch Max Homa at the President's Cup. People that we know and love, and what it is, and maybe they haven't had that experience yet. I cannot wait for Max Homa to get to the President's Cup.
And how much he's been wanting to be a part of one of those for a while. What did he do in the first round, Davis Love? Just no 9-iron?
Until it got out there, yeah.
You can run it out there
as fast as I could, yeah.
It's better
than 13.
It's better than having 15.
Yeah, hit that little 3-finger 8-iron, pro.
Yeah, dude. I thought you were a shot maker. You're a pro, bud.
But obviously, we could do 4 hours with you, but we don't have that much time. But I want to talk about your new boss a little bit.
Yeah, it's
Justin Thomas, because I've known this guy since he was rather young, absolute superstar. I know there was only a couple of guys that could possibly get you out of the TV gig, and Justin Thomas came calling. I mean, it's got to be incredible. Y'all picked up a major championship this year. What makes JT so special, in your opinion?
There's 3 or 4 things. First of all, I can't say enough about his work ethic. I love the fact that the range, or wherever we are out there practicing, that's his office. And he'll tell a story, or he'll say hello to Jordan or this or that, but that he does not hit a golf ball unless he's 100% invested. I love that about a player. You hear stories about how hard he works when he's home. During the pandemic, he was a guy that woke up every day, and it would have been easy to say, well, I'm going to go to the pool and have a drink with my girlfriend or whatever the case may be. But he wakes up and thinks, how can I get better at golf today? So that's something. He's a hell of a human being. You know, I tell this story, you know, I told it on y'all's radio show, just, you know, about climbing hills in Kapalua and him supporting the bottom of the bag and stuff like that and taking weight off my shoulder, something that, you know, says a lot to me. It's like, you know, somebody opening a car door for you. It's just, you know, he's just that guy. I love spending time around him. And he's really, really good. I think when I did TV, I would say on the air, I think he's the most talented player in the game. I think he's got more shots than any player in the game. No one needs to tell me how many great players there are on the PGA Tour at this moment in time. It's an amazing time to be out there. But I'll take me some JT any day when we're out there.
I'm with you. I mean, it's shot special making, to watch. 100%. Moves it around more than any like current guy that I can think of.
I got to ask about your first hole ever caddying for him, the 2020 in Memphis.
Yeah. Did you know that story?
No, I don't know the story.
Oh, okay.
I'm told to ask.
We're about to know it.
Yeah. So, so his caddy was a little unwell in 2020, and I had caddied for him once before, and I get this call saying, "Can you come overnight and caddy for me in Memphis?" So I do. So I get there for the Wednesday practice round. I take a red eye. I don't sleep. I'm a mess. You know, and I somehow get through that day, and the next day is the first round. So we're starting there on the first hole of Memphis. Pandemic, no spectators, and he gets up and hits a pretty decent block off the first tee. So I know this is not, you know, the place we want to be. It's certainly not middle of fairway. We're going to have to deal with some things. So my caddy brain tells me, get your ass off the tee, jog out there, and kind of set up what you need to get set up for your player before he gets there. So I do just that, and I get out there, and we've got these trees in front of us, and you know the shot link guys are in there, and there's this little kind of window in the trees, and I'm like, okay, so let's move this cable, let's move that stake. Yeah, can we move the shot link equipment to the side? And he gets there, and by the time I've gone through this entire process, I'm standing there ready to go, and he's now standing next to me, and he's looking at me, he goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, I said, "I'm getting everything out of the way." He goes, "I'm pitching it out sideways into the fairway."
Good effort, though.
Yeah, and it hit me. I was like, oh, that's right. I caddied for, you know, Phil for 25 years, and if there was a gap, there was no question where we were going. And, you know, JT wedged it out in the sideways. I was like, yeah, that whole wedge out thing. I've heard of that, you know. So it was funny.
You got that shot? You got the wedge? You got
really?
The pitch
Just
out?
Sideways? No one hit it from the fairway? What about that little 1 foot by 1 foot?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So it was
first hole.
First hole.
Moving all the shit out of the way. No, dude, I'm just going sideways.
Now I'm apologizing to the shot link guys. Sorry about that, guys. You know.
Oh God, that's good. All right, give me this right here. We're on JT topic. Let's say JT's running a little hot, right? Got a couple bogeys in a row. You can tell he's just not where he needs to be. If he gets in a situation like that, what's the way to handle it? I feel like every player is different. Is he a rah, pep me up, hey, everything's okay, let's go get him, bud? Or is he just leave me alone and let me operate?
It's still situational. It would, you know, is it Thursday? You know, if it's Sunday, you know what I mean, and he's just gone from second to fourth, that's one conversation. And, you know, Thursday where, you know, he's okay now, you know, he's turned 5 under into 3 under, kind of where he is. I think it's still situational, but you know, he's the great thing about him is, again, you're not walking on any kind of eggshell around the guy. You can, you know, try and tell him something funny. You can leave him alone. You know, to me, a big part of caddying is reading the room. So whatever the situation may be, hopefully I'll get that part of it right.
Is that the biggest part? Like switching guys, you've caddied for a couple different guys, and you know, in the interim there, is it knowing like how to get my guy comfortable, how to get the best out of my guy, knowing like this pisses him off, dude. If I give him a rah right now, he's gonna freaking freak out. Yeah,
no, exactly. And one of the things I said to Justin when I started was, it's my job to adjust to you, not your job to adjust to me. Man, if anything goes on out here, I don't care how big or small, that makes you in the least bit uncomfortable, please say something right away. I will make the adjustment. And so, again, that's part of my job. And again, you get to know these guys really, really well, and he's an incredibly, you know, inviting guy. So, you know, one of the most enjoyable weeks I've had this entire year, we went to Canada for the Canadian Open, where we got involved in that incredible shootout with Rory there on the last day. And Justin and I and his dad stayed in a house on the perimeter of the golf course, and we had a ball going to dinners and getting Chipotle and stuff like that. Man, it was so much fun. I mean, he's just that guy. So, you know, again, spending time with him away from the course, I get to know him that much better, and I couldn't ask for a better boss.
Yeah, you got to be like part sports psychology, like majority maybe sports psychologists.
The greats. You got to hopefully know your place and know, you know, when the right time is.
How cool has it been to see Tiger kind of become his big brother over these last several years? And I mean, they've become extremely close. And something we probably never, I mean, obviously when Tiger was competing at his best, this didn't happen. But now here's Tiger with Justin Thomas. How much has Tiger meant to him?
Couldn't possibly put it into words. I mean, that relationship is special, and I certainly, you want to show it the respect that it deserves, but it's amazing, and Tiger is just Tiger's an amazing guy, and he cares, and he's so freaking smart, and he remembers everything. And again, it speaks for these these team events, and you get guys like Justin and Fred and Tiger around. I mean, those three guys tend to play practice rounds at Augusta. Mm-hmm. You talk about fun as a caddy. Just grab the bag and listen to those three guys. Chirp at it for 9 or 18 holes. It's just it's amazing to be around him, and I can't say enough for Tiger. As the human he is, as the dad that he is. And of course, my great friend Joe LaCava works for him now. It's just amazing, and for Justin to have that resource, if you will, because I think that if Justin's really bothered by something that's going on within his golf game, or curious about this or that, or this golf course we're about to go to for the first time, if he's lucky enough to have that guy in his corner, I mean, that's maybe the single greatest resource you could have, and I love it for my boss that he has that.
No doubt. And I got to tell you one quick story, because we were at the Masters this year. It was Monday. I'll never forget. We were walking from the range, past the pro shop, out there towards the first hole, and it comes out right there, right when the hill starts to go up. Mm-hmm. And there is just ridiculously amounts of people. And I'm like, oh my God, all of a sudden here comes Tiger, Fred, and JT. And I'm like, Sleaze, let's go to the second nine. Let's go to because we ain't gonna be able to see shit this whole front nine.
I was like, dude, if this is how it is, like I don't know we can do this. We
couldn't even
Monday
walk.
Yeah,
oh my God.
I have a picture of that on my phone that somebody took from the dog leg, 280 yards down the way. And you're right. I've never seen, Monday, 15, 18 deep. That was wild.
So cool.
And when we teed off on Friday at the Open Championship this year, we were going down 1 as Tiger was coming up 18, and there you are playing in the oldest major championship I think in the world, and you're hearing this applause and these cheers rain down for Tiger. Tiger was obviously going to be emotional coming down, and it was amazing to me because it was JT Hovland and another world class player. And those guys, as Tiger was putting down on 18, they're playing the first hole at the old course there. They're walking that hole backwards. Mm-hmm. They're not looking at whether their ball's in a divot or what the wind's doing. They just want to watch Tiger putt out on 18. And it was another one of those kind of pinch me moments where I just said to myself, this is so freaking cool that you're
Going back 20 years ago, because for a long time, Tiger was a black box. Media gives you no information. From what I told other players, he wasn't going to reveal anything or give anything up. Now to see him 20 plus years later taking JT under, is that a shock to you that this guy would kind of be a mentor at this point in his career, but given that for so long he didn't give much?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not shocked because I feel like that I've known Tiger well enough to know what's going on. Certainly, out there trying to beat the guy on Sunday, he's that Tiger Woods that we all would expect. But he's a very caring, again, superhuman being, and I think I'd seen enough of that, on the range on Tuesday, or even in those occasions where you were trying to beat him, when he'd come over and say something to you. He's just a good dude, and so I'm not shocked that he's turned out to be the incredible guy to these youngsters that he has.
It's cool that he's willing to do it, because you're the best resource in the world to not share or pass along some of the stuff these guys would be ashamed. But he's definitely softened, it seems like. And your guy's the beneficiary.
I think we should get to the E9, even though we could go. We're just gonna have to do
another
episode
with
you
Tough
because
shit, Bones. You gotta come back, bud.
I'm supposed to hear about some of my favorite Joe LaCava stories. I haven't gotten any of these, but we got to go to the E9. Because these are fun. I think we should skip the first one, honestly, and just throw in an extra one. Because I got.
Here's our new first question, E9. Do you ever have huge regrets about not going working as a bank teller and all the and all the experience?
You should have done that.
You could have had some angry customers on a freaking chargeback.
No, it's funny. There were a couple of guys that worked down at the bank that I'd see them on occasion when the tour would go, and you're making a mistake here, and they were looking out for me, and I was like, I don't think I'm making a mistake here, It's
turned out all right. One of the most famous people in the world now, but whatever. No big deal.
Oh, yeah.
We mentioned it earlier, the caddy nicknames.
Yes.
Okay. Yours is up there. You got Fluff, Last Call Lance.
Right.
Give us a couple of the great caddy nicknames out there.
Well, there was a guy that you would talk to who for whatever reason, when he talked to you, his eyes were always half open. And Stadler's caddy, Jeff Doff, nicknamed him Dusty Trails because he always looked like he just walked down one, stuff like that. And then, of course, there was a caddy that, it seemed like no matter what he did, he couldn't possibly lose his job, even though he was late a lot and stuff like that. And his nickname was Asbestos because he was fireproof. I thought that was clever. And then when we were out there again in the 90s when the feds were looking for the Unabomber and they had that, famous Unabomber sketch with the hoodie and the Ray-Bans, and sure enough, this caddy shows up and he looks identical to this police lineup sketch. We're like, of course, he was the Unabomber for a while. So, it was just great and a lot of good fun, but it was, I don't, a lot of them were, R-rated, and I don't want to go too far down that road, but it was good.
That's awesome.
That
Caddy nickname.
Actually, I'll save that for a later question. All right, I did an average for you, Bones. Okay, I took your career trying to find this answer. I'm giving you 6 miles on average per round that you walk as a caddy. Okay, 5 days a week. I'm giving you 9 for practice rounds. Could be a little bit more. 22 events per year. How many more years do you need to caddy until you have walked the total circumference of the Earth?
Okay, so
oh shit, you know it?
I might know this.
Oh,
A guy came up to us once. You're caddying. People come up to you and they have interesting things to say, like I can fix your boss's swing, or whatever. You run into interesting people on the road, and I did have a guy come up to us who had gotten into this because he'd done the steps, and I know that we can get it up into that 17, 18, 19,000s. Because the thing about caddies is we're walking backwards a lot.
That's what this doesn't factor in. So this is super conservative.
So somebody told me that at one point they thought I'd walked around the earth with a bag on my back more than once, and they thought bordering on twice. I don't know. So yeah, you do a little walking.
Get some steps in.
Got my steps in.
Yeah, Earth is 24,900 miles in circumference. According to my calculation, you're almost at 20,000. But like I said, it's super light because by the way, it doesn't count Ryder Cups, President's Cups.
Right.
You're broadcasting,
walking the course,
right. In between yardages and back and forth, and circling around the green. Like I think you've walked more than around the Earth. Isn't that weird to think? Like.
Or walking back to the hotel if Joe LaCava leaves you high and dry in the parking lot.
Right, or going to get the fork for Freddie when he didn't know your name. Like there's another few steps. You've been around the globe, bud.
Thanks, Joe. Hey. Okay, perfect. We can get right into that right now. You have a 10-foot putt for your life. You don't get to hit it. You have to choose between your 3 good buddies that all happen to be caddies as well. Okay. Joe LaCava, Joe Scavron, Michael Greller.
Wow.
Who you choosing to make this?
This might come as a surprise. Joe LaCava is a very strong, thick dude. He's got great hands. He is an above-average putter. He's got a putter that's about 40 years old. It'll never leave his bag. But Joe can play, and as those other guys can too. And a couple of years ago, Joe will never tell people this, but he and his son Joseph won the Connecticut State father-son championship in whatever division they were in. So he loves to play. He played very well at Pine Valley recently when we were in the Delaware area. He came down during that, but I would pick Joe for sure.
All right, Joe LaCava, perfect.
Scott just doesn't have the heart for that. I don't think he doesn't have that
killer.
You don't have that killer. I thought it was going to be Griner.
Let me tell you, Scav 2.0 he's coming. He's coming.
Okay, I got to hear though, real quick, your thoughts on Michael Greller's golf game over in Scotland.
Let me tell you something.
While we're at it.
To anybody out there, if you've got a member guest coming up, send a private jet for Michael Greller because he will be the most amazing partner you'll ever have. He will drink and smoke cigars with you, and he will bring it on the golf course. We found out about Greller. My joke about Greller is that he can't hit a 7-iron over a car because he hits it so low. But we realized, when we went on this trip in the UK where he was playing as like a 6 or 7 and I was playing as a 4, that he hits it so hard and so low. He's hitting it 420 off the tee over there, and he was virtually unbeatable. So we had so much fun, and we're destroying guys. We're playing against at Muirfield and at St. Andrews, and we had a blast.
That's awesome.
He's a links guy, dude.
He's a links guy.
OG. Yeah, he's an OG. Golf is meant to be played on the ground.
If your course is soft, don't call him.
He's an OG. Yeah, if you got
get in the air, don't
fairways,
call him.
Maybe don't call him.
I will say he's the most enjoyable person to play golf with I've ever played golf with in my life. That includes some touring pros and this and that. Greller is LaCava's the same way, but Greller is next level fun to play golf.
That's
with.
awesome.
All right.
Love it.
Greller, shout out Greller. All right, here we go. We're going to golf geek out here for a minute. You've seen virtually every golf course on planet Earth that's of note. So if you could pick the 3 rotating major championship venues outside of Augusta, obviously, for the Bones Ultimate Major Championship lineup, what would they be?
So for the guys that play on the tour,
Yeah, you get to set the majors for next year. They
okay.
can be anywhere you want outside of Augusta.
no question that Shinnecock would be on that list. I think for top players, Shinnecock is it's unfortunate that they've run into some setup issues the last couple times they've had U.S. Opens, but I think that course is amazing. I think that Riviera in Los Angeles is amazing. So it would be those two for sure on different coasts, and then we can, we can throw others in there. Obviously, there's amazing courses everywhere. Pebble, obviously, so many in that New York area. But those two would be a lock, and then I would have to rotate the third in and out.
For the Open Championship?
Yes.
Okay. Between what? Your favorites?
I'll just go Pebble.
Pebble for the Open Championship?
Yeah. What about the British Open?
Oh,
British
excuse
Open,
me.
sorry.
So we could say Riviera for the PGA.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's what he was
for the
getting at.
Open.
Shinnecock
Yeah.
for the
Sorry, I
US
missed
Open.
that.
No,
And then what would you choose for the Open Championship?
Over there.
Yeah.
I would say St. Andrews because, I think I understand why people say, they freak out at Muirfield, in terms of the layout. But the thing about Muirfield is it's not nearly as scenic. It's not really on the water. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of St. Andrews. Granted, it's gotten pretty small, but to me, it's just like a Hollywood movie set. And I cannot figure out how they haven't had a Ryder Cup there in our lifetimes, because the thought of a Ryder Cup match ending on 17 there with those spectator grandstands behind the road there, I just think you'd see guys winning holes with 6s and 3s and God knows what, and the road hole bunker. I just love to see that.
They're having the
Played
Walker
a pretty
Cup.
big role in this year's major
Yeah.
Open Championship.
They got
too.
the Walker Cup coming there next year. Yeah, 2023. And then how about these kids? If you stay 2 years and you're an elite amateur, 2023 Walker Cup St. Andrews, 25 Cyprus.
Unbelievable.
Cool. Stay am.
Yeah, stay am,
ship
fellas.
it. You can
Yeah.
get paid as an am now. Why
Yeah.
would you turn pro?
Yeah.
All right, that's the Bones lineup. That's a hell of a lineup.
thank
I
you.
love the Riv call. Doesn't get it enough.
All right, you've
Big
done a
East.
number of the playing lessons with the pros on Golf Channel. You've had the likes of Max Homa, Wyndham Clark, Patty Tavatanikit, Harry Higgs, Cantlay, many of them. I want to know whose episode took the most editing, because I know they all didn't just stripe it around their every hole.
I will say, you get out
Please
there
say
with
the one. Please say the one. Please say the one. Please, God, be the right answer.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I will say we get out there with Cantlay, and the first shot they've got him hitting in the whole process is like a 3-iron par 3 there at the Bears Club, and he hit it to 4 inches.
That was real first
That
take.
was
Dude,
real.
he stacked it to this. It was
was
like 215 into the
unbelievable.
wind.
Right.
Of course he did.
And you think you're going to spend 45 minutes shooting this hole, and the guy hits it to, that close, and, you're moving on. No, there's no question that if you're going to hear profanity come out of my mouth, it's going to be at a playing lesson shoot, because I'm the guy making the mistakes. So I'm the guy that's constantly, tripping on what I'm trying to say and things along those lines. But we've had a good time. Max was great. It's been fun. Did you have one in mind that you thought?
We were hoping it was
I was
Wyndham
hoping it was
Clark.
Wyndham just so I could dump on him a little bit. It definitely was. He's just too nice to say it. It's definitely Wyndham in terms of
Wyndham
I
was-
didn't like my hair. That's my bad side.
All I remember about those shoots, because they were in Vegas, it was very windy and cold, and we had a no-show that week. But Colin Morikawa and Wyndham Clark were out there, and they were troopers and fantastic, and we really appreciate them showing up.
That's awesome.
I can't believe Cantlay. When I first saw it, I turned it on. I was like, that's 9 shots in. There's no way that was straight out the gut.
And Cantlay, I mean, have you had Cantlay on this show yet?
No, he's actually been wearing me out about that, actually. I said, Patrick, on these podcasts, we talk. So
Yeah.
you got to be able to
We
come in here
enjoy
and talk.
opinions and
He's
stories.
unreal. Like, I'm out there with him, and of course you got time, and you're learning more about the guy. And he told me this amazing thing that I love about him, and I hope I don't get it wrong. He doesn't listen to any music made during 1978 or later. It's like 77 or before. There's like a specific bam
Okay,
right
this
there.
is when
he
music
cuts it
started to
off.
suck?
Yeah, this is January.
This is when they went to
1
shit.
this year, and just listening to him and why he thinks what he thinks. I mean, that guy's a beauty, and I love being
So
around
when
him.
he comes on, we're not going to be talking about music.
I would love to
I have
have,
no
like,
clue.
genuinely, he's the guy I would love to have on and for an hour and a half and not talk about golf one time. Because I
Oh,
think his
man.
brain goes everywhere and has original thoughts on a lot of. I think he'd be a blast. This is just no golf, dude. We're going to talk about all kinds of
You
stuff.
hit the nail on the head. Original thoughts, and that dude is smart.
Yeah, he'd be a fun one. Just
He's
zero
fun.
golf. We know your
Yeah.
golf. You're real good. Let's
Yeah.
talk about some other shit. He'd be awesome. All right. reality show. This is what I was getting to earlier with all the caddies. Reality show is going to be made following around one current PGA Tour caddy for the entire year. Who's the best entertainment?
Oh my gosh.
One?
That's such.
You could throw champions in there too if you want to get.
I mean, I will say
Lefty
this:
in the
if
mix.
they'd have done it in 1992 and done La Cava, like it would have shut down the TV industry because nothing else would have been watched. It would have been working for Fred, and again, all that entailed and the fun that they had on the road. You know, that would have been the easy answer back then. You know, now, I think you got to go. Off the top of my head, you got to go Greller because he's such an interesting guy. He's this devoted dad at home. He's got 2 young children, but he has this awesome relationship with Jordan where like recently we were in the Northeast for a tournament and Jordan's like, okay, we're going to play Pine Valley tomorrow. And he's out there and, you're out there with your rental clubs and your tennis shoes and you're slashing it around and having fun. And, those guys, between Jordan and Justin Thomas and of course Greller, those 3 guys, have had a lot of fun. You can tell they can tell a lot of stories about each other over the years, and I just like being a fly on the wall and listening to it. But Greller is a fascinating guy, and to me, his backstory, the whole elementary school teacher and where he came from and how he got on the PGA Tour. If I can just say for a second that he very early in our relationship, he showed me these photographs he had on his phone. And he said, this was from the greatest golfing day of my life. And I said, well, explain it to me. He said, well, I'm a teacher, I'm on a very, very, small salary. I love golf. I'm caddying at Chambers Bay during the summer when the kids are on vacation. And, I have very small savings in my one goal in life was to step foot on the property at Augusta National. I'm like, okay. He said, so every year my brother and I, we would enter the lottery for practice round tickets. And so they do this in this one particular year, I believe it's 2012, they get the tickets and they have to basically spend all the money they have flying, across the country, staying in a nasty hotel room, but ultimately going out there, stepping on the property and seeing these people they love, players and a couple of caddies. And he would lean out over the ropes and take pictures of himself with these players that he loved. And he said that was, without question, going to be the pinnacle, the greatest thing that ever happened to me within the game of golf. And then 3 years to the week, he caddied for a guy that won that tournament. And I mean, that story to me, it says so many cool things about caddying. It says so many cool things about Michael Greller, and it just gives you hope.
That's a cool
He's
story.
one of my favorites.
That's a cool story.
All right, we can stay on the caddying topic because I don't know if you know, Sleaze has actually dabbled in the caddy business a little bit.
I saw
I
it.
did my toe
Twice.
Waters
He's
bones.
Colonial this year.
2 PGA Tour events. He's got a 20th and a miscut, so he's batting 50%.
Okay.
Let's say we put Sleaze on the bag for Tiger in 2000.
Okay.
Let's go over these numbers. 20 events played, 20 made cuts, 9 wins, 17 top 10s. No big deal.
Good
What's
Lord.
that record look like if Sleaze is on the bag and not Steve Williams?
I can tell you right now.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's a minimum 15 wins. There might be 5 that we let slip through the
Yeah.
cracks.
Yeah.
Probably a couple bad swings by him, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to put that on my guy. But
Right.
we're winning 15 of them things. Easy, grand salami, no
Yeah.
question. We show up for big events. That's where I get my guys really ready.
Right.
When the lights shine,
Yeah.
that's when we shine.
Yeah.
So
How crazy is that, though? 20
That's-
events, 17 top 10.
reading that out loud,
it's
it
just
sounds
stupid.
fake.
It really does. It was amazing. And I remember like one year we got to San Diego and he'd won like 5 or 6 tournaments in a row. And he was, he's trying to track down Byron Nelson's 11 in a row at that point. And I just remember getting to the golf course and you're used to seeing, TV trucks or, the NBC trailers or what have you. But like, Good Morning America, just stuff that you don't see at golf tournaments or people you see. I remember looking into the crowd once, we were paired with him and seeing Aretha Franklin. And I'm thinking to myself, I get it, if I don't know, maybe Aretha Franklin's the biggest golf fan in the world at the time, but people wanted to see him. And it was amazing. And to be around him at those team events where he would go to countries for the first time. And it was like the Beatles showing up. And I thought Tiger handled it like a champ.
Let me read off the finish to his year here because his worst finish was tied for 23rd.
That would never happen.
His last 8 events: first, third, second, tied for 5th, second, first.
Yeah.
It's like relax one week, bud. Maybe just slap it around a little bit.
Yeah. No.
I cleaned that up quick.
I think you could have caddied for him in
Cleaned that
2000.
up.
He'd been all
I
right.
guarantee I could have got
He'd
the
have kept his
kid in
card.
the winner's circle.
It'd been close though.
I used to get off planes and people would like cry. Like that doesn't happen for golfers. When they
Yeah.
see him, they'd cry.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen for golfers. All right, let's stay on my caddying here for a minute because I'm trying to get better. We got one of the greats here. I need to know this answer because I lost sleep over it at Colonial this year. Okay, my guy Wyndham was looking good, well inside the cut line. 5 holes to go. We finish up 4 over in the last 5. Missed the cut by a shot. My fault or Wyndham's fault?
What kind of shots were we seeing down
Just
the stretch?
dog shit. I couldn't get him to do anything.
Missing fairways?
Yeah, I was doing everything I thought to do. I'm normally a good little coach, little rah-rah guy. And I just couldn't stop it. I was like, what is I'm blowing it.
Yeah.
Stop short siding it. Just one par. We're going to do it.
Yeah, golf will break your heart, won't it? I mean, it's that game, and whether it's in the caddy ranks, or the player ranks. I mean, golf can be cruel, and so.
But it's pretty awesome too.
But it can be pretty.
All right, last
awesome
one,
too.
just because you mentioned.
So that was a Wyndham answer, by the way.
Obviously Wyndham.
I'm gonna answer for Bones because he's too classy.
You mentioned Tiger getting off and seeing people cry and everything because they see him. Well, rumor has it some MLB managers have reached out to Bones and asked you not to come to any more baseball games because so many players get distracted when you're there and they want pictures.
Oh,
God.
Is this,
are you on that level,
no,
dude?
No.
Rob Manfred might be calling soon.
No.
You're not allowed in stadiums anymore.
I will say that one of the more unusual things that I've had happen to me relative to being a caddy is Joe Scavron, our dear friend, and I went to a D-backs Colorado Rockies game several years ago, and because we knew one of the D-backs players, Paulie Goldschmidt, we went down for batting practice. And so, we were leaving. It was time for us to get out of there and maybe go grab a beer and sit wherever we were going to sit, and we're now leaving the stadium as the Rockies are taking infield practice, and someone starts yelling at us. And so we're like, we're obviously in the wrong place, and we turn around, and it's one of the Rockies players. And the guy goes, excuse me. And we turn around and we walk towards him, and it's Nolan Arenado, this amazing future Hall of Fame, now third baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals. And he goes, you caddy for Phil Mickelson and you caddy for Ricky Fowler. And we look at this guy and we're like, you watch way too much golf on television. But, we were now meeting Nolan for the first time, and Nolan loves golf. And it was the coolest thing because we all became friends. I'm friends with Nolan to this day. He came to the U.S. Open in Boston this summer. I saw him there. But to me, that's the thing about golf. Golf takes you places, and everybody loves it, especially athletes in other sports, as you guys both know. And you never know who you're going to run into or how much they want to, talk to you about what you do for a living and things like that. So, yeah, that was a crazy day and probably the most unusual place I've ever been recognized. But love the fact I know Nolan now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a game. Yeah. Bones, you're all class, dude. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Long overdue, and that was a
Thank
blast.
You. Thanks,
That was
brother.
great, man.
Cool.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
sir.
Appreciate it. All right, well, that was our man Bones joining us on Golf Subpar. God, just incredible storyteller. I mean, the things he has seen. Phil Mickelson, one of the greatest ever played. Now Justin Thomas. Justin sparking up this great friendship with Tiger Woods, getting to be around him so much. It's been a hell of a journey.
This is the stories he could tell on podcasts. You know what I mean? We're not even getting the closed book versions of all this stuff. I didn't even I kind of knew about the Bones nickname, but I didn't really. I knew Freddie gave it to him, but I didn't really know how. I was at the buffet and he just didn't know his name. Just started hollering out a bunch of random shit at him. And then I love the story, the first hole caddying for JT where he hits it crooked. All right, move all the shit. You, gallery over there. You guys over here. We're going to need this angle clear. There's a little window.
Circle up
There's
there.
a 2 feet by 2 feet window here. We're going right through there. And JT, it's like, dog, I'm just gonna punch out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I forgot.
You
You
know
can
you
do
do
shit
that.
like that.
Yeah, people actually do that.
Don't you want to risk an 8 to maybe make a 4?
But it's cool, man. I mean, obviously being best friends with Joe LaCava out there, his relationship with Michael Greller, Joe Scavron. I mean, they've got a hell of a setup out there, and I'm so happy for Bones being back on the bag with a great player. Like you said, he was born to caddy.
Yeah, dude. He was awesome on television. He had a lot of insight with players and caddies that you probably the average guy wouldn't know about. But dude, caddying is his DNA. That's where he belongs. He belongs out there with those guys. And as fate would have it, one of the few bags I think that he would have left the broadcasting
No
for
doubt.
came available. And it worked out. And that little dub they picked up at the PGA Championship this year, I think Bones played a role in that. I mean, it's just one of those calming effects. Even guys that he's caddied for on a one-off basis were like, man, it's he's one of those guys he's on the back. Players actually want to kind of show off.
We got to get him back for episode 2 because there's a lot more stories to get to with
Good
Bones.
thing he didn't take that banking gig. He could have been,
Worked
depositing
out all right.
checks and handling overdrafts and cool shit like that. Big miss.
All
Next
right.
time.
Well, let's get to some gambling.
You're
on a heater with the football. I've been doing all right. But let's start with a little football.
Okay.
A lot of big games. Obviously, game day. the Frogs are involved.
Go Frogs.
Got the Red River rivalry this week, Texas
Little
OU,
bit of a downer.
which isn't going to be near as exciting as we thought it might be going in. But I'm going to go with a game. I just love their coach so much. Mississippi State.
Okay. There was one of two ways I thought you were going there.
No, I just love Mike Leach so
course.
much. He's freaking hilarious. Great interviews. They're favored by 7.5. I like buying the half down to 7, just because that little hook number bothers me. But I'm going with the Mississippi State Bulldogs this week.
Who they got?
They're playing the Arkansas Razorbacks. Pig Suey, who got beat up pretty good by the old Alabama.
It happens when Bama comes to town.
Yeah, I think I'm coming off a tough game, an emotional game. I don't know if they're going to have it when they head down to play Mississippi State in Starkville.
Hope Leach just gets long interviews
I do too.
before and after game. He's a treasure. Put him and Holgerson together, form the world's greatest coaching staff. Maybe Lane Kiffin, a little dabble of Lane Kiffin in there as well.
Not
All right, I'm
Nathaniel
going
Hackett.
back to the well, trying to exactly. Going back to the well, trying to keep my perfect streak. Every week I pick a game, it wins, I bet it wins, and then I bet 7 other games throughout the day, and I never win another one.
And you go
I
1
am
and 6 every week.
Cold, but my picks on here have been hot. I'm going back to the well, dude, with my boys. The lights are on. Game day in Lawrence.
Oh,
TCU
my.
giving up less than a tub, -6.5. All right, we're coming off the boat racing of OU. Everyone saw that. Could have put a 70 burger on them. But we showed some class. That's the type of organization we are. Pull back the reins. We're going in there. KU off to an unbelievable start. They got a program for the first time in history. It's the first time they've had the lights. They ain't used to winning games, much less being ranked and having
Rock, chalk,
marquee
Jayhawk.
games. I think it's going to be a little too bright for them. I think my boys come in and make a statement. Giving up less than a tub on that. Got to hit TCU Horned Frogs at Lawrence. Game day. Stand up. Pat McAfee in the house.
Pat McAfee is going to be having a time in Lawrence.
Less than a tub. They're going to love it. They're going to show up down there, too. First time game days there. It's going to be nice.
All right, well, on the PGA Tour, we got the Shriners Open out in Las Vegas. Really great event. Anytime you get to go to Vegas, it's fantastic. Decent field. Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Sung J M, Tom Kim in the field this week. For my favorite, he's the third betting favorite, and the guy's on an absolute heater. He's undefeated this year. He wins Fortinet. He goes 4-0 at the President's Cup. He beat me and Joe Griner.
Shit, he's
Whisper
rolling.
Rock. I mean,
What
things
more
are
can
going
you
pretty
do,
good.
dude?
And he's going off at 14-1, which isn't terrible odds for a guy that's playing as well as he is. Max Homa, let's go, baby.
I was actually surprised he was third betting favorite. I get Cantlay being 1, but then over Sung Jae, and a pretty decent gap in between the two. I thought Max would have been second. Hard to go against Max right now, the way he's swinging it and his confidence level. When in Vegas, you got to factor in external activities.
I agree.
Who's there to show up? You know what it's like up there. I got a guy, he just attended his first party ever, okay? And you know what he drank? Water.
I was there.
Okay?
I was very
the
upset.
kid is locked in on golf. He's just had his coming out party, I would call it, at the President's Cup. Not the longest dude in the world. One of the best putters on the planet. I think he's all business all the time. Got Joey Scovern out there for the first actual PGA Tour event on the bag. I'm going Tom Kim, 30-1.
I don't hate it.
He could go low. He can go low. He could win golf tournaments with quads on the first hole.
All right, a little further down the board, I got a guy at 40-1. You go back to the Korn Ferry Tour last year. In his last 10 starts, he has 9 top 10s. The only one he didn't, he missed the cut in. No big deal, don't really care. The guy is printing money. Started off the season, 3rd place at Fortinet. Tied for 9th last week at Sanderson Farm. This is a home game for him. Gets to sleep in his own.
Sleeping
his
at mommy and
parents'
daddy's
place.
house.
Yep. He does still live at home with his parents, which we like to give him a hard time about.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
As long as he doesn't put too much pressure on himself to perform at home, I like him a lot this week to keep this thing rolling. Taylor Montgomery, 40-1.
He's rolling right now. Look for him if you can get some props out there. Rookie of the year, that's a good bet for. I think he's a guy that'll contend for East Lake. He is rolling right now. All right, I'm gonna go a little further down the board. One of our boys here does like to have a good time, so keep that in mind when you're betting him. But he's going off at 50-1. Talent-wise, I think he's incredible. I think it's just getting everything to line up. We've seen it in glimpses. He made it all the way to the BMW last year at the FedEx Cup playoffs. He's the type of guy that has East Lake talent, just getting it all to match up. I'm going Keith Mitchell.
bougie
50-1. Hit that driver. Hit it hard. Hit it straight. He could be flicking a lot of wedges around Las Vegas and just get that putter going a little bit. You're going to have to go low. So you either need to be a great putter to make a bunch of birdies or you need to hit bombs and have a bunch of short irons in there. Keith is the latter. Tom is the former.
All I know is if you're not playing well, we need some good Vegas stories from a miscut. That's the goal this week every year.
Yeah, they need to write. There should be a book written about guys missing the cut in Vegas or making the cut, as we know some good ones. John McGinnis came on and told a great one about setting the wake-up call for 6:15, like, sir, 6:30.
That'd be a hell of a book. I think I'd be in there a little bit.
I'm on the tee. Yeah.
All right.
Enjoy it.
Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll talk to you on next week's Golf Subpar.